Hello there, Bernie Miklasz with you, and welcome to the Bernie Show presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Hey, I'm going to just tell you up front, but I don't hope I don't chase a few of you away. I got a lot to get off my chest today. I got a lot to talk about. I got a lot to holler about. I got a lot that just needs to be said, and I'm aching to say it. Just a hideous loss for the Cardinals today in Georgia. So, again, you're warned. This is not going to be a quickie. All right, but I'm going to try to make it interesting. I was I'm stumbling already before I go to my notes, but Oli Marmol said a couple things in the post game after that loss today that really caught my attention, and I'm happy to explain it. There's no question the purpose behind at least one of his comments. So anyway, I will get to that. I will get to a lot of stuff because their bullpen is a mess. Their team is a mess. The season's looking like a mess. And I'm not trying to be Mr. Killjoy or whatever, but come on. I mean, they can't win a road series. The bullpen has imploded. They have won only 7 of 22 games since sweeping the Twins. And it looks like a very long, hard road that's probably going to get even harder. So this was a really bad loss for the Cardinals on Wednesday afternoon in Georgia. They went down hard on a booming 3-run homer by Eli White. Let me go back to the 60s music. Eli's a coming, right? He sure was. This gentleman actually came into the game with an anemic 294 slugging percentage, but it didn't matter because Cards manager Oli Marmol brought in Ryan Fernandez, not Ryan Helsley, Ryan Fernandez, to hang yet another batting practice slider. White's eyes probably just went like this. I mean, I didn't see that, but I'm assuming they probably got pretty big. And White went boom and ball went far, and that was it. That's all she wrote. No disrespect to Eli White, but with the way Fernandez is pitching, my 66-year-old rotund carcass could probably get a hit off Fernandez these days. Of course, that's not true, but I am trying to make myself laugh. I don't expect you to laugh at the joke. Anyway, little self-deprecating humor. Anyway, with that homer, the Braves won 4-1. And of course, the post-game reaction was predictable. Listen, man, I ain't knocking anybody, but, Marmol took the blame for all of it. I get it. I did a video earlier this week criticizing Marmol for for not using, I should say, Ryan Helsley in that bottom of the ninth in that tie game at Citi Field. The Mets had their 3 best hitters due up, and Ryan Fernandez no longer has the nasty slider or the fastball movement to handle tough dudes like Lindor, Soto, and Alonso. But Marmol still went with Fernandez. And my point that I made then, and I've actually made it to Oli himself in talking to him, is that I know you want to hold your closer in reserve for a save situation, but if your setup guy can't get through the ninth, there is no safe situation. You don't have a chance to save the game. Sometimes you got to try to save it a little earlier. It was not a good situation either way, but I made my feelings known pretty clearly. And once again, when Marmol was with us on KMOX Live yesterday from 12 to 12:30, I said that to him. So I've got nothing to hide. And, I speak with candor, even when, it's something that the manager doesn't agree with. I'm just trying to be honest here. Listen, today was a similar situation. The game was tied in the 8th because of another just weak performance by the St. Louis offense, which somehow made Bryce Elder look like Greg Maddux or maybe John Smoltz. Yeah, the same Bryce Elder that came into this game today with a 7.20 ERA after his first 3 starts. No problem. 6 innings, 1 run, 5 hits, couple walks. No problem. Get out of the way, Cardinals. The Braves tied the game in the 7th because the Cardinals had to give the ball to lefty reliever John King, who frankly has nothing left in the tank. That's why I don't use him all that much. Kyle Leahy, who has been absolutely great this season. If you want to read the details, go to Sports Hub STL. Excuse me. Yes, sportshubstl.com. And I did a column about it, breaking down Kyle Leahy's fantastic season so far. He truly is having a great year, and I hope he keeps it up. He's really good. But Kyle Leahy came in and got the Cardinals out of that jam in the 7th inning, and that the game could have been lost right there, but he put out the fire. So Marmol went to lefty Jojo Romero in the 8th, and I hope by now everyone finally realizes, frankly, not to sound like a jerk, I realized it last year. I was writing about it, talking about it last summer. Jojo Romero is burnt toast. It's no offense to the gentleman. I know he wants to be good, but he doesn't have the swing or miss stuff, and right-handed hitters just destroy him. And in his last 50 relief appearances, going back to last season, his ERA is now about 5.50, and his strikeout rate is, 17%. And he is like basically, just he's a piñata for right-handed hitters. He cannot get them out. So here's the deal. When Romero is your prime lefty reliever, he's your big gun down there, left-handed relief, right? Here's what that means, okay? You don't have a prime lefty reliever, all right? Now, I know what some of you are thinking, because I think it too. Steven Matz, who's looked good, granted, he doesn't have a big strikeout punch himself as a reliever, but he's pitched well in relief so far this season. But the Cardinals have their little fancy 6-man rotation thing going, except it is not a true 6-man rotation, because when Matz is getting ready to make the occasional start, he's out of commission in the bullpen. Can't use him because he's getting ready to make a start. And then after he makes the occasional start, well, he can't go back and start pitching in the bullpen right away. He needs at least a couple of days, maybe 3 days in between the start and the time when he pitches again. And by the way, since I'm grouchy, but in a good way, I don't want to hear any junk about how Matthew Liberatore should have stayed in the bullpen this season. I mean, I've heard that from some of y'all and some other people, and including some of my friends. Come on, that's bull, and you know it. This dude finally received the full opportunity to start in the major leagues, and he's been terrific. Liberatore is the only Cardinal starter averaging over 6 innings per start, and his fielding independent ERA, and that tells you where a guy really is. His fielding independent ERA, otherwise known as FIP, is 1.87. That's the best of any Cardinal starter. Listen, 2025 means nothing because this team ain't going to do anything. They're going nowhere as far as contention. They're just simply not good enough. So the smart thing to do, so smart that frankly, I'm surprised the Cardinals made the right decision here, is to get Liberatore ready and prepared and get all the work he needs to become a fixture in this rotation and maybe a number 2 type starter for the rotation in 2026 or beyond. This 2025 opportunity is ideal for setting up Liberatore to advance his career in a prominent way. You don't stick him in the bullpen with this lost cause. Are you kidding me? Come on now. Y'all smarter than that. You are. I believe that. Anyway, I got that off my chest. So let's get back to the sad story. 2 men on, 1 out. Here comes Fernandez. And on the 3rd pitch, he served Mr. Eli White, the luckiest man on the face of the earth at this moment. He just put in a nice meatball slider. And I ain't talking about a sandwich. A meatball slider that came in at a ridiculously, preposterously hittable 82 miles an hour. Bombs away. It wasn't a walk-off, but the Cardinals were done. They presented no threat to the Braves in the top of the 9th. And let's be honest here, the only reason the Cardinals got 1 measly run in this game is because Braves center fielder Michael Harris tried to make a diving catch and the ball got by him, allowing the runner to score. It was a gift from Harris. It happens. You mean they couldn't score a run after that, after off of Bryce Elder and a tired Braves bullpen? Like they used up a bunch of guys yesterday. All they could get was one run that was given to them basically as a donation by Michael Harris in center field. They couldn't score another run. This game wasn't just on Fernandez, by the way, or Marmol, by the way. I just wanted to make that point. Again, this was not a good spot for Fernandez. And I do understand totally why some of you and other people, many other people, were going off on social media after the game, after seeing Fernandez get detonated again. I joined in. I actually added my voice to some of the yelling and some of the fury. Once again, so we understand each other. This was not a good spot for Fernandez. But I also realize Marmol does not quite have anything resembling a luxury of a deep bullpen filled with capable relievers. His choices are awfully limited these days. When Matz isn't available in the bullpen, the Cardinals have 3 good relievers. Now, some of you are going to make a case for this guy or that guy because a guy might have pitched well the last couple times. No, they've got 3 guys they can count on. All right. And this is when Matz is not available in the bullpen. They got Phil Maton, they have Kyle Leahy, and they have Ryan Helsley. But one of those guys, Helsley, is held in reserve for save situations. And this is Oli Marmol's policy, and I really disagree with it. I know that Helsley pitched in the 9th in the Cardinals' 10-4 win on Tuesday, and I saw some people raising hell about that on X or one of the other places. It had nothing to do. It had nothing to do with what happened Wednesday, because Helsley hadn't pitched since the final game of the Astros series. What was it, like 5 or 6 days between work? He had to get up and just get his arm reactivated again. Sat in the bullpen for 5 consecutive games. He wasn't used because Marmol wants to keep him in the holster for a traditional save situation. And once again, let me repeat, sometimes the game can be saved before the 7th. Excuse me, I'm so fired up. Sometimes the game can be saved before the 9th inning, okay? And that's what I said. I'm opposed to this policy. And it's not just Marmol, like a lot of managers just are hung up on this. Because, again, sometimes games are, quote, saved before the 9th inning. They can be saved in the 7th inning. They can be saved in the 8th inning. In fact, I found an old quote from Oli Marmol in 2022 when he was explaining his policy at that point, where he said just what I just said. Sometimes, that game's on the line in the 7th inning or the 8th inning, and you got to go with your best guy. I totally agree, but he's gotten away from that because he put in what I call the Ryan rules. Remember the Jordan rules? These are the Ryan rules, as in the Ryan Helsley rules. Not going to use them unless it's a traditional save situation. And when you've got a weak bullpen, when the people around Helsley are, I don't know, waiver bait, most of them, I don't think you have that luxury of having the Ryan rules in place, all right? You can't put your closer in a sealed capsule until a traditional save opportunity becomes available. Sometimes those games can get away from you late, but they get away from you because you're keeping your designated closer locked in the bullpen. And to have this kind of rigid philosophy, it doesn't make sense. There's got to be exceptions to that. And here's the other thing about the Cardinals in 2025, and it definitely applies to this situation today and the Helsley usage all season. To get a save situation, the Cardinals have to do 2 things, not just one thing. Well, maybe they could get away with one thing if they score a ton of runs, but it wouldn't be a save situation if that was the case most of the time. But anyway, in principle, the Cardinals have to do 2 things to get to that save situation for Helsley. Number one, they need an offense that consistently score more than 3 runs a game. Over the last 16 games, the Cardinals average about 3.5 runs per contest. They have slugged under 350. and they've been held to 2 runs or less in 7 of those 16 games. So when your offense ain't scoring much, and these games are, this leads to like closer games and games that go into late innings. If your starting pitchers have done a good job, and Kyle Leahy or somebody, one of your good guys, can work that 6th or the 7th or the 8th, whatever, you're going to be carrying these 1-run games or the games that are tied. You're going to be carrying them into the late innings. And 2, so the offense is going to like make that entirely possible when they just don't score and they're not consistent. And we know that. 2, to get the game into Helsley's save-ready right hand, the Redbirds require a bullpen that can reliably, dependably preserve the lead. This does not happen often enough. The Cardinals today, added to the list, the Cardinals have already blown 8 leads this season, and only one of those failures belonged to Helsley, that game in the doubleheader in Boston. And one of the reasons because he hadn't pitched. He hadn't pitched several days before that game. Why? Because they didn't have any save situations. I mean, around and around we go. You hold him back for a save that may not ever materialize. Anyway, both of those items that I just discussed explains why Helsley has spent way too much time sitting in the bullpen waiting for a save opportunity that might happen lately, probably won't happen, but Oli Marmol clings to his policy. And with Helsley locked into the sealed capsule again Wednesday, pardon me for rolling my eyes, the manager had extremely limited options, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. If you hate him, you hate him. I can't convince you not to hate him or whatever. I can't convince anyone to try to be fair. All I can do is try to be fair myself. He had already used Leahy, the team's best reliever, and that includes Helsley. And you say, what are you talking about, Bernie? Did you know that Kyle Leahy's got a higher strikeout percentage than Helsley this season? Do you know that he doesn't walk guys? Do you know that he gets a ton of ground balls? Do you know that he's great against he's a right-handed pitcher, but he's great against left-handed hitters? You can use him for multiple innings. He's not in bubble wrap. He's got durability. This guy, read the column at Sports Hub STL, because there's all kinds of things in there about Kyle Leahy. It was like an appreciation to him. And he did a job again today, which was not included in my column because I filed that column before the start of the game, Wednesday. Anyway, so Leahy was used in a key spot. Phil Maton has been pushed hard lately, and the Cardinals decided, as Marmol said after the game, they just felt they had to make him off limits. They don't want to see the guy get hurt. That would make a bad situation worse. Because you don't sell out. You don't max out and use a pitcher that you shouldn't use to win a damn game in April. Okay, that is not good policy. And I know to a lot of people, it's like, no, you got to win the game that's right there. You got to do it every day. The way bullpens are used now, and as fragile as relievers are, most of them, no, you got to think about 162 games. And every now and then, yeah, there'd be a spot for a guy like today, Phil Maton. But you push him and then something snaps, and then what? Then we're all ripping the manager. We're ripping the manager for abusing the relief pitcher. See, all managers trying to run these bullpens, they can't win either way, right? That does not apply to the manager in St. Louis. It's true of all of them. If you overuse a guy and he breaks down, it's his fault. If you overuse a guy and bring him in and, or I should say, or you don't bring him in even though he's got a tired arm, well, he should have brought him in. This manager's a clown. Either way, he's going to lose, okay? So Matz wasn't available today because he went 2 1/3 innings Tuesday. So who was literally left to choose from? You had 2 dudes, Fernandez and the newbie rookie, Matt Swanson, a veteran of 1 major league appearance in a blowout game. Listen, the Cardinals obviously don't trust Swanson in a big spot, and I'm not saying, they're right about that. Because I don't know why you would have put such strict limits on bullpen deployment. You don't have that you don't have that security. You don't have enough good relievers. So if you've called a guy up from Memphis, you got to use him. You got to use him. And if the kid coughs it up, he gets beat up. So what? The greatest relievers in the history of Major League Baseball have had days at the office where they just get crushed by hitters. I mean, if you don't think enough about a guy that you think like maybe putting him in a tight spot, a high leverage spot, and he might take it on the chin, and that he's going to fall to pieces. This is just ridiculous. All of this. If Matt Swanson is up here, you got to use him. All right, because I think he figures into your plans this year anyway. So if Swanson is up in the show again, you can't leave him sitting out there on a day where you do not have options. You can't wait for the Cardinals to have their rare game of, where they lead by 6 runs or something before you bring him in. So if you're not going to use Helsley in that spot, and Maton and Matz were unavailable, Leahy had already pitched, and Swanson was not deemed worthy of such an assignment, then Marmol gave the ball to Fernandez. Again, not the choice, ideally or otherwise. He was boxed in, Marmol was, but part of that is his fault. If Fernandez is in the majors and you're running shorter relievers, then, Fernandez, you can't hide him. He's going to have to pitch. When I say part of it's his fault, I think what I'm getting at here, it's actually the fault of the front office, but I'll get into that later. But I'm saying it's his fault because there are a couple guys like Swanson, for example, with how bad Fernandez has been. You can't be picky. You recognize that he is just in an incredibly vulnerable state with his pitching because his slider, which was so great last year, is gone. So he should be pitching at AAA Memphis, keeping him up here to fail because he doesn't have that good slider anymore, or he doesn't have the primo version of his fastball. It's really not smart. It's pretty dumb. He should be in Memphis regrouping and trying to fix that slider. You don't try to fix it in high leverage situations in the big leagues for a team that's not that good. If there was any doubt whatsoever about this before, that doubt should have been erased, wiped out, when Francisco Lindor destroyed Fernandez on Friday night. He put one in the second deck. Ball game's over, walk off. At that point, the tickets should have been arranged for Fernandez to return to Memphis on Saturday morning. But nope, can't do that. We're the Cardinals. We're smarter than everybody, right? Right? We know more than you all do. I don't agree with that, by the way. I'm making a point. The Cardinals are not smarter than you or me. Not as many times as they used to be anyway. So no, Fernandez was kept around to inflate his ERA today to 11.42 through 12 appearances this season. And basically 2 walk-off home runs in his last 2 appearances, although today technically was not a walk-off, but it was for what the situation was. It qualifies as an unofficial walk-off. So he shouldn't be here talking about Fernandez. It's not his fault. Listen, man, young pitchers get lost. They have a pitch that worked, and then next year it doesn't work, and they don't know what to do. They're fragile. They lose their confidence. It happens. It absolutely happens. And so you gotta let them get out of the fire, and you gotta let them regroup. And you do that in the minors. Why else do you even have minor leagues? What is the point of this? But Marmol doesn't set the roster. He doesn't make roster decisions. That authority belongs to the one and only John Mozeliak. And if John Mozeliak decides he believes it's his ruling that it's best to have Fernandez in the majors, well, by golly, that's the end of this discussion, boys and girls. He don't want to hear any of this. He's in charge. Hey, don't we all know that Mo knows best? Don't we all know that he is smarter than you, and he is smarter than me, and he is smarter than everybody else? Don't you know that he looks down on the commoners who dare question his decisions? He is wrong. No, we are wrong. He is always right because he's smarter than anyone. And if you don't believe that he thinks that, that opinion, I'm smarter than anyone. I'm smarter than all of you. That opinion is backed by layers and layers of arrogance. I'm sorry. I told you I was just going to let it all out today. Yes, this is the same John Mozeliak, the know-it-all, who just assumed the Cardinals bullpen would be dandy, just dandy again in 2025. Why? Because, hey, the bullpen was great last year. Listen, even I've done studies on this, and like the Cardinals have no one in the analytics department that can kind of pass a note to him and say, you know, you might want to reinforce his bullpen because history tells us something. There is a clear trend. When bullpens perform at a very high level one season, as the Cardinals bullpen did in 2024, the following season, there is a frequent rate of regression because the seam heads have studied this, and you can't expect a bullpen to be best in show, in effect, like 2 straight years because bullpens are volatile, man. All kinds of stuff happens to bullpens. But remember, Mo knows best. I mean, young relievers get lost. Guys get hurt. Guys you think are going to be good, they take a step back. They're getting older. They're getting more hittable, whatever it may be. You can't assume that everyone will be in good form the way they were in 2024. But remember, Mo knows best. And so here we were again. He couldn't possibly consider that Fernandez, who was so good last year as a rookie, he wouldn't even consider that maybe he's a likely candidate for regression. Or that Romero, no, Mo signed Romero on a contract. He's not going to sit there and say, well, you know, he's virtually defenseless against right-handed hitters, so we have a problem. No, he wasn't going to think that. Happy thoughts. He gave him a contract. He doesn't even look at the basic stats. Romero's numbers against right-handed hitters since about the beginning of June last year are a nightmare. And he faces more right-handed pitchers than left-handed. He faces more right-handed hitters than left-handed hitters because there's about 70% of the plate appearances in the major league, sometimes 72, 73% are taken by right-handed hitters. And I think I had that wrong. So let me back up. My point is, you can't use Romero selectively against left-handed batters only because of the 3. You got to come in the game and you have to face 3 hitters. The managers know that on the other side of the field. They're going to have some right-handed bats mixed in there to protect against lefty relievers late in close ball games. And Mo also he also basically assumed that John King, the lefty, would continue to benefit from fortunate batted ball luck, and that's never a good bet. That also fluctuates from year to year. Listen, the Phil Maton signing was a wise and obvious move, and it was also a very cheap move because that $2 million salary is all that Bill DeWitt and John Mozeliak spent on outside talent all offseason. That is shameful and it is disgraceful. That's all they spent. And gosh, Mike, like some of you told me today, and we were talking online, you got this thin bullpen, and man, relievers are out there all the time. You know, there are guys you still could have signed. There's guys still waiting for an opportunity. I see teams even trading relievers to each other because they don't space on their 40-man for a guy. Relievers are, in fact, fungible. There's a deep supply in them, and I'm not saying they're all great, but man, there's got to be a couple of people out there that could help this train wreck. So not John Mozeliak, because he, of course, knows way more than the rest of us would ever hope to know, right? I guess I got to stop with the sarcasm. I'm sorry, but anyway, it comes down to this. Good luck. Oli Marmol, good luck with that bullpen. And before you say anything, I just have to say for myself, my conscience is clear on this in terms of this bullpen because I repeatedly warned in my writing and my videos and my talk show appearances on KMOX repeatedly said the same thing over and over again. This bullpen in 2025, it might turn out to be fine, but it's simply not capable of matching the excellence of last year's bullpen. And last year's bullpen is the only reason why that team won 83 games instead of winning 76 games. It was that good because of their record in one-run games and just late inning closing the door, slamming it shut. It's just common sense. You're not going to be able to repeat that. You're not going to do it 2 years in a row at that level. But the Cardinals, the people make the baseball decisions upstairs, they thought, oh yeah, it'll be fine. Everything's going to be wonderful. And here's another reason why. Here's something else that when I've already said a bunch of times, Mo knows best, right? I'll tell you another something that Mo knows in this, which is his lame quack season, right? Mo knows that a large percentage of the fan base can't stand Marmol. They don't really care about Marmol. They'd like to see Marmol go bye-bye. And so therefore, the manager, whether we like it or not, some of us approve or not, I don't get to approve or disapprove anything. You can like or dislike whoever the hell you want. But he's an instant and easy target for those who do not like him at all. Fans, as I said, can choose to, quote, hate anyone they choose to. You can hate me if you want. That's all right. That's your right. Marmol is definitely the whip is out when it comes to Marmol. There's just, he's not going to get much slack, afforded to him. It's just not. And you know why? First of all, Mo hired him, and he's viewed as the only reason why, that Marmol's a manager is because of Mo. But Marmol's also, in effect, the speaking representative face of the franchise. He's in the dugout the entire game. TV cameras always on him. He visits with the media 2 or even 3 times a day. He does the post game. He's on TV. And I always like how FanDuel Sports Network pulls away from that. I'm like, so much is screwed up with Cardinals baseball. The one thing I always like hearing what the manager has to say. With all due respect, I don't need them to cut back to the studio for the same inane discussions that they have every night. Let's hear from the manager. Isn't that the whole point? But anyway, so he's on those post-game shows all the time, and he's the face of failure when the Cardinals spit up a game, as they did today. Mo gets to hide in his front office box. He also knows, of course, he knows that he is vehemently disliked. He has reference to that, but that's okay. He's just about out of here. So let Oli take the beating, right? Heck, Mozeliak is the only reason why Oli Marmol manages the Cardinals. So why should Mozeliak really have any empathy for the manager? He doesn't. The manager's lucky to have this job, and Mozeliak is the one who gave him the job. What a lucky man Oli is that he had John Mozeliak to look out for him. That's it. Nothing else to say about that. And Mozeliak, besides, even if Mozeliak did care about any of this, it doesn't matter, because he's, with each day he gets closer and closer to turning over this huge, messy, flaming, ramshackle junkyard of a ball club to Chaim Bloom. And then Chaim Bloom can decide what to do with the manager's job. Mozeliak, he's counting the days until he is free to go hang out in Napa Valley for maybe a month at a time, sampling vintage reds that he likes, okay? But Oli Marmol said something after Wednesday's disaster that definitely caught my attention. Oh man, this stuff is about to get real. And I'll tell you what Marmol said after this quick break, and I'll explain it to you. But I need to take a quick break because a brother's got to make $1, right? Seriously. The baseball season is rolling, so it is time for you to step up to DraftKings Pick 6. Think of the DraftKings Pick 6 as a fastball right down the middle that can be taken into the second deck. It's the easiest way to play for cash and to have a chance to win big. I like playing Pick 6. I'm getting used to it. It's fun. It's challenging. And if you really do your homework, man, you'll find that it isn't easy, but it's doable. And you can absolutely win. What you do is select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a particular stat. For example, before the game, when you're making your decisions about who you're going to, quote, play, will a player, a hitter, have 2 more hits or less than 2 hits in the next game? You get to make the call. Pick Six is available in most states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and more. So cash in on your baseball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick Six credits instantly on just a $5 entry. All you got to do is download the DraftKings app. It's easy. And you use the code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to play $5 and get $50 in these Pick Six credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick Six from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick Six not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick Six credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at picksix.draftkings.com/promos.
All right. Thank you. Back to the topic of the day. Mozeliak could fix this by adding a reliever because some are still out there, as I mentioned, and they are easy to find and they are cheap. But he seemingly does not have any plans to do that. Another way to improve the situation is to keep Matz in the bullpen permanently and use Michael McGreevy to make spot starts when the Cardinals are switching into one of their 6-man rotation modes. And that's going to be going either in or out all season long. And then when they go back to the 5-man turn, McGreevy can head back to Memphis. You don't have to tell me he should be here anyway. I know that already. Thank you, though. He should be here anyway, but of course, payroll politics prohibit that. Speaking of which, how about the irony of Miles Michael pitching 6 shutout innings today in Atlanta, Wednesday in Atlanta, and they lost. That's why I say, man, this thing's gone bad. It really is. Now, listen, the Cardinals could promote the high velocity reliever Riley O'Brien, who, and I'm being facetious, throws about 180 miles an hour or whatever. But remember something: if the front office thought much of him at all, he'd be here by now. Besides, O'Brien is pretty fragile. You look at his history; a lot of breakdowns. He's always dealing with some sort of injury, even if it's maybe some of it's in his imagination. I don't know. I guess Chris Roycroft could come back, but after overhyping Roycroft all off season, I thought he was like going to be the next Tom Henke or something. The Cardinals rushed Roycroft to Memphis as soon as he got banged around a little. So maybe Roycroft or O'Brien will get the call. With the people running this baseball operation, who the heck knows? Fernandez should be on his way to Memphis now, but I can't assume anything, right? And here's this brings another point up. If Mozeliak won't do something as simple and easy as to ship Fernandez to the minors, and the young guy needs that time, then why doesn't Mo start arranging and planning the bake sale? What do you mean bake sale? I'm talking about trading some guys. What is the point of holding on to Helsley, who doesn't even pitch much? What is the point of holding into Helsley for 9th inning save situations that don't come around too much anymore? If you're not going to provide strong setup relievers for Helsley, then what is the point of all of this? You're going to keep him to sit in the bullpen more often than not? Really? The same applies, if we look at this logically, the same applies to starting pitcher Eric Fedde. Like Helsley, Fedde can become a free agent after the season, and they're both going to walk. So tell me again why Mo kept both of these guys, these pending free agents, instead of trading them last offseason. Yeah, he might have a chance, sure, to trade him at the trade deadline, sure. What if somebody gets hurt? What if one of those guys gets hurt? I hope not. They're good dudes. But what if they do? Or what if they go bad? What are you going to trade him for then? Fedde has gone 6 innings in 4 of his 5 starts, but the Cardinals are 1-3 in those 4 games where he goes 6 or more innings. Why? Because the offense no-shows, the bullpen gets blown up, and that's why they're 1-3, even when he goes deep into games. See, the bullpen and the offense are not good enough to support solid starting pitching, or certainly the bullpen's not grand enough and reinforced enough to hold those leads for Helsley. So what is the point of holding on to Helsley and Fetty? The message to Mozeliak, to his manager, is this. Basically, this is your bullpen, so do what you can. Figure something out. Because he's not getting help from upstairs. Which brings me to this. The part that I say for last because I wanted to build up to it. See, this is performance artistry. I'm only kidding. I take this stuff seriously. But I did want to build up to it today, and I know I'm talking a long time. Marmol said something in Wednesday's postgame session that was absolutely, in my opinion, meant for John Mozeliak. In my opinion, from all these years covering these things and listening to managers and coaches and all that, I know how to decode what they're saying when they're trying to send a message. Okay. Some of you might say, well, that's silly, Bernie. Come on. You're just saying that to be dramatic. No, I'm not. I've heard this stuff similar to this so many times. I mean, I can't remember them all. Managers or coaches will get really frustrated with something going on above them, and they will, without directly criticizing the people they work for, they will send a little message and they'll put it out there. Okay. And I firmly believe this is what Marmol said about his shaky bullpen situation. And I quote, these are Marmol's words, quote, "This is what we have, and we have to get them back on track. We have to get them back on track. There is nothing coming from down below where it's going to change what's going on up here. We have to get these guys better, and the only way is for them to pitch." He ended it by saying, "It's absolutely frustrating." And away we go. Away we go. Squabble up. After a brief pause, Marmol continued, "But damn, we're going to keep going with them. We've got to continue to encourage them. We have to get to the other side of this. It's part of the game." That's a manager who realizes he is on his own. He is not going to get any help from upstairs. He went out of his way. That was the money quote. Marmol went out of his way to point out the fact that they don't think, meaning maybe the major league staff, not the suits, they don't think, let me repeat this again. There is nothing coming from down below where it's going to change what's going on up here. So he's basically saying in that one sound cut, audio cut, he's basically saying he realizes he's on his own. And he's got to turn chicken, into chicken salad or whatever. You know how that goes. And he also knows that he's pointing to the fact that there's nothing down in Memphis that's really going to make a difference. Woo, okay. Trust me, that's what was happening today, right? And that was the money quote. There's nothing coming from down below where it's going to change what's going on up here. So we got to keep running these guys out here, right? It's about to get interesting, peoples. The Cardinals are 10-15. That includes a 2-11 road record. They have lost all 4 of the road series so far. And since sweeping the Twins, they have won only 7 of 22 games. We're seeing a lot of bad baseball. And maybe more than that, we're seeing a bad moon rising over Busch Stadium. That's all. Thank you for your patience. This was a long one. But after that game and these developments, I just had a lot to say. The boy here can't help himself at times like this. So I aired it out. Thank you. And I let those words flow. I'll let them flow tomorrow, probably in a lot shorter version. But also thanks most of all to you, but also thanks, of course, to DraftKings. And that'll do it. I'm Bernie Miklasz. Thanks for watching The Bernie Show.